This case study, there are many stakeholders within RNS Electronic Service Company. Jane was the fresh grad who started working for as their head of payroll. She is definitely concerned about her job security because this was her first job since she was graduated. And Brad is the owner of RNS, wants his employee to be in high standards while able to develop a successful business and a profitable company as the dream of any CEO would want. Eddie is the general manager, has the authority and power to hire and fire the employees, including Jane. That was stated earlier. The dilemma that Jane faces was when Greg is receiving special treatment by Eddie. Because they are related as siblings, Greg is receiving much easier work than is paid in higher commissions than the other technicians who worked harder than him. There are many other stakeholders in the case study. Interest would include Jane's family member and why it's so important for her to keep this job. This is her first job since college and it's quite important because she supports her family and maybe she has dependents to take care of. If may be unethical towards other employees of this company that are also stakeholders. They want their salaries to be confidential and want the continued employment. The general public and the stakeholders care very much about the company being profitable and bringing revenue into their community.
In this case, Jane should read the company handbook about the termination policy of employees on probation. For example, an employer's handbook states that no employee will be terminated during a probationary period of 1 year. Eddie does have a right to terminate Jane, but not if he is firing her just because Greg is getting paid a higher commission he should not be getting. To fire Jane would be in violation of societal expectation of fairness. In the Philippines, the employer can only terminate an employee for a cause and after complying with due process. Termination for cause may be based on just causes, serious misconduct, willful disobedience, gross and habitual neglect, loss of trust, and commission of a crime, or authorized cases such as redundancy, installation of labor-saving device, or serious business loans. There are other reasons for cessation of employment, including the expiration of fixed-term contract or employment. Due process requirements. The employer must comply with procedural requirements in terminating an employee. The employer required to furnish the employee with two written notices. As a general rule, conduct an administrative hearing. The first written notice, commonly known as the show cause notice. It informs the employee of the charges and requires him to explain. The second written notice contains the decision of the company. Any termination without cause is considered an illegal dismissal, uh, which entitles the employee to back wages or reinstatement. A termination for cause but without due process renders the employer liable for damages. Therefore, a manager or the CEO cannot simply call a worker in the office and right there and then tell the employee you're fired. It does not matter if the employee is a supervisor or manager, even a probationary employee is entitled to due process.
Analyzing the case in the ethical perspective, we can derive four theories. Kant's imperative theory states that ethics conform to the universality of the activity. If it is done by everyone, then at least some part of it is already ethical. The concept of dynasty, the special treatment of people within the family, is evident and is mostly expected even from the other members of society, as they also relate to this particular topic. The said act being widely done in companies, the only problem is that the fact that Eddie threatened Jane so that he could continue this practice, making the said act still unethical. In utilitarian theory, the act can be justified only if it is served to the greater good, in which this case failed considerably. Eddie compromised the good opportunities for other workers and instead solely gave the high-paid jobs to his brother Greg. For rights jury, the individual rights of all people involved should be accounted for. In this scenario, Eddie is giving Greg a higher paid job than other employees, threatening to fire Jane if she decides to reveal this information. In which case, it's also the right of the company to preserve the confidentiality of the company. Breaking this only puts Jane on the bad side in this perspective. But for Rolls Justice Jury, the displays of fairness must be utmostly displayed, and as the case suggests, Eddie is unable to demonstrate justice and fairness towards the other workers of the company by only giving Greg the easier jobs with high pay commission.
This kind of situation happens more often than not on companies which there are two or more members of the family who are experiencing special treatment or are treated differently from other employees. Sometimes these people cannot even perform the job they were hired for and are only kept because of family ties, which is truly very unethical for other employees. This kind of environment in the office causes other employees, if not insulted, feels jealous, making them perform their jobs less efficient. When this happens, the company will lose profit and eventually the business will fail. You should always treat everyone in the company fairly or equally, like for the employees' benefits and the payroll tax you pay that should be reasonable for the quality of work they give. Being family does not justify special treatment when it comes to professional work. There are corporal social responsibilities to be abided by certain ethical codes of conduct. My recommendation is to act in an ethical manner by giving the same benefits, the same options he gives to all other technicians. In times like this, a family member should not be the one supervising or handles the other to avoid being biased in many ways.